Coming up on today's show, I want to update you guys on the latest revolving around Russell Wilson after his visit to the Browns yesterday, Kirk Cousins, what's next there, plus we have some Joe Flacco and Nick Chubb news and rumors. But let's begin by discussing Cousins because over St. Patrick's Day weekend, we got a big news update that the Falcons would keep Cousins on the roster past the fifth day of the new league year, triggering a $10 million roster bonus, which was interpreted as that means Cousins is off the market. And I think that's partially true. He's off the free agency market, meaning for anyone, like myself included, that expected him to get released, that does not seem very likely. But I do not believe he is off the trade market. I think the Falcons said, if you want Kirk, you got to trade for him. And we're so serious about it, we're going to pay $10 million for him to be on the roster when you all thought he would get released. Now, if you're wondering what it would cost to acquire Kirk in a trade, this is what I'm going to project. A 2026 conditional sixth-round draft pick. I think it could be very similar to Justin Fields last year, who was dealt from Chicago to Pittsburgh for a conditional sixth-round draft pick that could jump up to a fourth if he played 50% of snaps. I don't think that's very far off for Kirk. So I still don't expect the Falcons to try and get or receive a lot in a trade, but they are likely looking for something to make that contract not look super duper bad. Now, for a trade, you kind of lose me. I've been very outspoken about how for a vet minimum $1.2-ish million contract signing, I can get on board with I can get on board with Kirk Cousins. Now we're talking about giving up draft picks, and you're not getting him at the vet minimum anymore, right? He's going to likely agree to a new reworked one-year contract, but it's not going to be $1.2 million. And for the way he played last year, more than $1.2 million and a draft pick, I don't want to say I'm completely out, but I'm very, very close to it. So let me know, are you still in on Kirk Cousins? This is the pinned comment. Give me a yes or give me a no. I'll give you a full explanation on my response right after this quick YouTube ad break. As I was saying, for more than the vet minimum and for a draft pick, probably not. The thing that's keeping me somewhat in is if you trade for Kirk and it doesn't go well, you're out of 6. That to me does not seem like something that we can have, a temper tantrum over and have a riot because, oh my God, Cleveland traded for Kirk and he sucked. We're on a 6th-round draft pick. Boo-hoo. What you're really out is you're out on the opportunity to have signed a different quarterback, right? That was your veteran move. And if Russell Wilson goes to the Giants and he has a really good season, the Browns can kick themselves for passing on Russ in favor of Kirk. I'm not going to be upset over the 6. I'll be upset over we wasted a year and you barked up the wrong tree. But that again, that's under the assumption that Russell Wilson wants to come to Cleveland over the Giants. We don't know that for a fact. Now, speaking of Russ, we got some updates on that front, starting with Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, who said Cleveland's visit was more of a get-to-know-you. They weren't really talking a lot of business. Mary Kay also added on to that, saying Steelers free agent quarterback Russell Wilson is still in the mix for the Browns, although they haven't necessarily made him a formal offer yet. Wilson's visit on Thursday, in which he met with the Browns from morning until shortly after 2 p.m., was an opportunity for both sides to get to know each other and see if it was a fit. So I think we are all in agreement here between Fowler and Mary Kay that it does not feel like anything is imminent between these two sides. Russell Wilson, I think, likes a little bit of the spotlight, so he's probably going to try and milk this out a little bit. I don't think he's going to really take it for too much longer than he has to because he doesn't have a lot to stand on based on the way he finished last year to all of a sudden have the spotlight on him and pass on an offer because he just wants more attention on him for longer. I think we're really just waiting on Aaron Rodgers because I believe Rodgers is the first domino that has to fall. I don't think the Giants or the Steelers are going to make a move for Russ until they get told no from Rodgers. And if you think Russ likes the spotlight, Mr. Unlimited, Rodgers had a 72-hour darkness retreat last year just to extend it even more. So we'll get his update on the Pat McAfee show sometime during, could be April. I mean, he's going to probably take this to the wire. And until Rodgers makes a decision between the Giants or the Steelers, Russell Wilson's likely not going to get a formal offer from either one of those teams because they don't want to quit on Rodgers because they got impatient and maybe in their eyes settle for Russell Wilson because they didn't know if Rodgers would eventually pick him or not. So that's what's holding this whole thing up here. But there's nothing really stopping the Browns from making Russell Wilson an offer, right? They have had zero reported interest in Rodgers. So they could beat the Giants or the Steelers to the punch and go, hey, Russ, it looks like everyone is waiting on Aaron Rodgers and they are looking at you as a backup plan. We don't view you as a backup plan. We view you as our plan A. So here's our offer. And now that puts some pressure on Pittsburgh and New York to go, you really want to gamble on Rodgers? One of you two is going to get the $1 million case. The other one, and I don't think Rodgers is $1 million case, by the way, but in their eyes, the other one's going to get the 1 cent case because I think the backup plan for Rodgers would probably be Jameis Winston for New York, and for Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph, or maybe the Steelers then re-engage with Russ. But if Russ signs with the Browns, that option's off the table. So this is a fun quarterback Game of Thrones game we have going on here. I'm a little surprised the Browns haven't taken advantage of New York and Pittsburgh waiting because if Russ views the Browns as the third option between these three teams, worst case scenario, well, if he gets an offer from Cleveland, maybe he doesn't want to be patient. Maybe he doesn't want to be someone's backup choice. And maybe he'll just put some pressure on the other two teams to make a decision now and say, if you don't get back to me by the end of the day, I'm taking this offer from Cleveland. So that's where we currently stand on Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about Joe Flacco and Nick Chubb in just a second here, but I was looking over the YouTube analytics, and so far in the month of March, we have accumulated nearly 600 subscribers. Compare that to this point last year, 442. So major shout out to everyone who has joined the channel. If you haven't yet, consider doing so. It's completely free, so scroll on down and click that subscribe button. So here's what Mary Kay recently said about her old good friend Joe Flacco. The Browns have so far expressed only mild interest in Joe Flacco, but could get more interested depending on what happens with Wilson and Cousins. I think Flacco is going to be perceived as a great quarterback signing if you plan to go with Shador or Cam, but I don't think Cam's going to be there with pick number 2. It might be tough to get Russ or even Kirk to waive his no-trade clause to come to Cleveland if word gets out they're going quarterback at number 2. Same could be said for the Giants and the Steelers, though, who should have interest in taking a quarterback early in the draft. But Flacco, just as a prospect, put the quarterback draft possibility to the side here. The room's kind of split on this one. A lot of Browns fans want Flacco back, and I get it. 2023 was a ton of fun. He helped the Browns make the playoffs. He was spraying the ball all over the field, and Njoku and Judy and Moore all looked much better with Flacco than any other Browns quarterback for as long as they have been here. But we have to acknowledge that there are some downsides to Joe. Where do I begin? One, the way he ended in Cleveland, I don't think left a very good, inspiring note for Stefanski and Barry. The guy threw 2 pick sixes in the playoff game, and I don't bring that up as just a one-off. There were a lot of turnovers with Flacco, and I took the touchdowns with the turnovers because at that point, the season was weird. You were on to your 4th quarterback. Have some fun, score some points, and the Browns did. I believe Kevin Stefanski is done with quarterbacks that turn the ball over. His team has led the NFL in turnovers for 2 straight years. He's probably not looking to go down that same path again. And Flacco would be down that same path. Now, there may not be a ton of great options out there. Any free agent quarterback still remaining probably struggles with turning the ball over. So beggars can't be choosers in that regard. But I think the Browns fan base that wants to bring Flacco back just wants to bring 2023 Flacco back. He's going to be 2 years older, and I don't think you're getting that guy. And part of me really just wants to leave that version of Flacco preserved as a great memory. And if you bring it back and it doesn't go well, Flacco's ring in Cleveland is just not going to have quite the same. Well, name in Cleveland won't have quite the same ring to it. So between Flacco and Russell Wilson, let's say Cousins is off the table now. The Browns don't want to trade for him. Which one would you pursue? I'm going to give you my choice in a moment here. It might surprise you, but give me a JF for Flacco. Give me a RW for Russell Wilson. I'm going to go with Flacco, and this is largely motivated by the fact that I don't really like either option, but one is much cheaper. And I think one is going to be much better with developing a rookie quarterback. I think Russell Wilson could probably help you win more games this season. That is not really my goal because I don't think the Browns are going to have postseason success this year. Russ could help this team go to 9-8, and maybe Flacco can get them to like 7 wins. But I don't think 9-8 Browns or even 10-7 Browns are going to make some noise in the postseason. And while postseason appearances are great, I'd rather have the cheaper option that doesn't put you, I wouldn't say in the hole for the future. Not like Russ is going to get crazy money, but there's still less salary cap rollover if you go with Flacco for $5 million versus Russ, who's probably going to be around 20-ish million, so 4 times the price. And I think Flacco would be a lot better with a rookie quarterback. I don't get the sense that Russ is there to help be a mentor. And the Browns are definitely drafting a quarterback this year. So for those 2 big reasons, I'll take Joe. But don't get me wrong, I don't really like either one. Now, next up on the show, we're going to talk about Chubb. Really quickly, though, this Browns hat and a whole bunch of other gear as well, not just this hat, is on a big sale at the moment. Go to chatsports.com/CLE hat. I put the link in the comments and description of today's video. So if you want to get some more Browns gear in your wardrobe with spring around the corner, go to chatsports.com/CLE hat to get these awesome sales. So here's what Mary Kay recently said on Chubb as well. Chubb didn't find a new home in the first wave of free agency, and the Browns will be open to re-signing him in the second wave if they determine they'll have a role for him, because Chubb wouldn't necessarily be suited for a third down back role. The Browns would have to be sure they'd have some carries for him in the featured back role, and they don't know that yet. Timeout. That's a very different tune from MKC compared to, from the Combine 3 weeks ago, let's say, not even quite a month ago, when she wrote this. It's the end of the Nick Chubb era in Cleveland, and it is sad it has to end this way. What changed? 3 weeks ago, it was the end of the Nick Chubb era. Now, what did she just say? That they have some interest in bringing him back? Right? That's a Cleveland, if Chubb didn't find a new home in free agency and the Browns will be open to re-signing him? Very different tunes. Now, let me just kind of set the, I wouldn't say record straight here, but full transparency. I'm not bringing this up to dunk on Mary Kay or something like that. That's not the intent here at all. It's not easy to report on these things and have 100% accuracy. I've got stuff wrong before, but I don't try and pass myself off as, hey, I'm an insider and I was told this information from someone in Berea. I make predictions, I get stuff wrong. That's fine. People get stuff wrong. But I think the lesson learned here is when reporters or insiders or beat writers put stuff out like this, don't take it with a grain of salt. But don't also say it's going to be 100% fact. And that can be said for me too, like a lesson learned for me as well is there's got to be some balance, right? We got to find some middle ground here. So there seems to be some optimism on Chubb coming back to Cleveland compared to just 3 weeks ago from the very same reporter. As for where I stand on Chubb coming back, from a morale and locker room standpoint, I'm all in. From an expectation standpoint, they're very low. I'm not re-signing Chubb to be what he was from 2018 to 2023. That guy's not coming back here anymore. Maybe 2 years removed from an ACL and MCL and a lot of other knee injury surgeries he's gotten. 2 surgeries to be exact, one in September, one in November. But if I'm bringing Chubb back, it's because it's going to cost you next to nothing. Vet minimum contract, very close to it. Probably some incentives in there, and that's great. And a leader for the locker room, a silent leader, but nevertheless a leader. And you're kind of earning some brownie points with the Browns fan base because you need it right now. And worst case scenario, you're out $1.5 million in cap space and he takes up a spot on the depth chart, on the roster. I'm okay with that worst case scenario. That's all right for me. So let me know if you want Chubb to come back. Drop a 24 in the comment section. I'm on board with it. I see the downside, sure. But for me, I just feel like he's earned that at this point in his career with Cleveland. And he wants to be a Brown. And this is not a fan base, or that's not a franchise that has had those words said a ton. So if he wants to stay here, I'm all for it. Let's pick a card to wrap up today's show. We took a week off for this during free agency just because I knew there'd be so many signings and so many odd hours, and I didn't want to have these cards in my pocket the whole time. So let's get back on track. Reed, which card do you want to select?
Let's see. I want Chubb back, so 2 + 4, 6.
Yeah.
6 of hearts.
I like that. I'm going to go with 3 of clubs. No, 9 of clubs. 9 of clubs. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy, if you can, the rest of your Monday, and I'll see everyone either later today or tomorrow with another video.